Every single game on the board for Saturday, November 22nd. Guys, welcome to the Pre-Scout. And we are getting a chance to look ahead, to look forward to a very, very busy Saturday slate in the NHL. And if you're a hockey fan, if you're a hockey bettor, Saturday has to be your favorite day to not only watch the game, but to bet on the game as well. So we are trying to get you guys a look ahead and get you prepped for what is a very busy day across the league. I have been loving doing these shows on a Friday night for you to get you guys prepped, whether it's sides, totals, team totals, props, whatever it might be. And today I'm very happy and fortunate to have Bryan Leonard joining me here. And Bryan's done very, very well with NHL for the past many years at WagerTalk, consistent guest of ours on Puck Time. He's a starting pitcher. Let's be honest. He's a starter with us here on Puck Time. And we're going to get a unique perspective from Bryan, looking over some of the numbers and the teams. And what I always say before we bring Bryan in, with these videos, guys, there's going to be games that we have more thoughts on than others. You know, I was really privileged to have Neil Parker with us last week, and he had some great picks, some great thoughts. And there were some games we kind of skimmed over and some games we had a bit more thoughts on. But this is usually the longer video of the week, of course, because we're going through most of the games. But I know you guys don't also want us to be here for an hour and a half. So we'll keep it fast and we'll give you guys a very good video. So without further ado, I'll bring in Bryan. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And keep in mind for everyone that, yes, these games on Friday are not over yet. So a lot of what we have to do is handicap off of what happens on Friday. And we're going to give you the best ideas that we can at this point, but make sure to check back again on Saturday for our actual plays for our clients, because there may be some goalies we expected to go that don't, and some players might get injured. And, you know, right now in this part of the season, we're getting a lot of games in a short amount of time. So these teams are dealing with depth issues for this week and next week, or last week and this week, where we might not have to look at that most of the time. So it's a little bit different ball game around this time of year with the NHL.
It's the purge right now in the NHL. I don't know what's going on. We talked about it today on Puck Time with Hellebuck for the Winnipeg Jets. We've got so many key players going down for and let's be honest here, key players that will potentially be on, you know, Team Finland, Team Sweden, Team Canada, Team USA at the Olympics. And these players are lying to us if they tell us they're not thinking about the Olympics, Bryan. We know they are. So the funny thing is, NHL GMs and owners, as much as they're excited to watch the Olympics themselves and stuff, if you're running a business, you don't really want to see your players go. And that's why these hockey players haven't been to the Olympics in the past couple times, because the NHL owners didn't want them just going away for a couple weeks. And obviously, if you're not an Olympian, you just get a vacation. If you don't make the Olympic roster for your team, you just get a little bit of a vacation. So yes, guys, the good news is only a handful of games on the Friday slate, so we don't have too many games getting in the way. What I'm going to ask you guys to do with us this week is to open up your Odds Logic pages or open up your WagerTalk Live Odds page and go in rotation order with Bryan and I. And, you know, you guys are always asking me for timestamps and things. We're going in an order. We're going through each game. And again, some things we're going to have more to say about others and some that we won't. So, Bryan, we got a great promo code to get to people, but let's not waste any more time. Let's get into some of the games here for Saturday. And I'll just tell you, I always joke around about these early afternoon games, and I just ask every guest, is it something to be said about these unders? You know, primetime dogs, primetime unders early in the NFL seems to be a thing that people like betting. Well, what about early afternoon unders in the NHL? I keep telling myself I want to bet it, and then I don't, and then it's 2-1 in the third period. So we've got the first game of the day is Columbus and Detroit. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's very similar in the NBA for like Martin Luther King Day and some of those holidays where they've got all day long basketball. And I know Steve Fezzik, one of our friends here in Vegas, he plays those unders. He's done it for years and he's had success. I'm sure by now the lines makers have caught up with that. So they may be a little bit of an edge, but they're smart. And when they make these lines and the bettors start betting into them, those edges disappear quickly. But we've got Columbus at Detroit here. And, I was just talking about playing a lot of games in a limited amount of time. This is the third game of 4 straight on the road for Columbus, and it's also their 4th game in 6 days. They were able to beat Toronto in Toronto 3-2 in overtime on Thursday. And you got a Detroit team who I kind of like the Islanders in the last game, but I watched the show and it seemed like a lot of people in the chat were really liking Detroit in that game, and they come out and they get shut out at home after beating Seattle. So we've got 2 teams right here. It's 3rd game in 5 days for Detroit. I prefer the underdog side here, but I'm not so sure we're getting the value here that I would want to get. So at this point, just to lean on Columbus, and we'll see if we can get a better line by the time the games go off on Saturday.
I'll tell you, I was cheering for Detroit to lose their game because, to be completely honest, if you're forecasting things from my angle, and you hate to see it, Brian, that we're head-to-head in the first game of the slate here. I guess it can't all be kumbaya with us, but I was almost it was one of those things where I wanted to see Detroit hit a bump in the road. Is kind of more so, and not only do they hit a bump in the road, like sometimes I almost feel like it's better for a team to lose 5-0 than to lose 3-2. You lose 3-2, you don't really get that slap in the face. You lose 5-0, your coach walks in that dressing room, he's pissed. Like if you lose 3-2 in overtime, your coach is like, oh, well, we had a good effort. You lose 5-0. And how about those Islanders, man? This Islanders team is definitely one of the most surprising teams this season. And more importantly, I kept on calling them a boring team to watch last year, and they've made me pay for that comment because they're pretty fun. But regardless of what we think about the side, the total is at 6.5. So if anybody believes in what we've been talking about on these shows over the past few weeks with the early start unders, here's the real test. Some fatigue teams, some goal scoring teams, but it is a early start game. So 6.5 total, -130-35 is the ballpark range. And speaking of those Islanders, I was just talking about them, and well, they're at home against the Blues. And this Blues team is so tricky because everybody had higher expectations for them going into the season. And you and I talked the last time that we hosted Puck Time, just the two of us, about when do you drop how you felt about a team and you start realizing kind of who they are right now. What do you think about this number, Brian? I saw Pinnacle adjust to -122 as the time we're recording this right now. The Islanders have been a busy team, but this, to me, seems like a weird line. And when I see a weird line, I kind of want to take the side that it's weird on, and that would be the Blues for me. Do you agree here?
Yeah, it's funny because if you take a look at what the Blues have done, they've got the worst net goal disadvantage in the NFL or in the NHL, down 24 goals, and yet they played 12 games at home and 9 on the road. They're only 3-7 when you count the overtime losses the last 10. So it's not like they're playing better. If you take a look at the schedule, they're in the 3rd of 5 straight on the road. They lose in overtime to Toronto. They lose in overtime to Philadelphia. 2 teams somewhat struggling right now, and Toronto's had a lot of injuries. And so, they've got 4 losses coming into this game at the Islanders. So with 4 losses, they're going to give their best bet out or their best game out there. And you got an Islanders team who really tore it up on the road. They shut out the Rangers to start it. They beat the Devils in overtime. They beat the Knights in overtime. They beat the Mammoth in overtime. They did lose to Colorado, but then then they go out and they beat Detroit 5-0 in the last game, and Dallas before that. So they're riding high, and they're coming into a nice home setting here with St. Louis, Seattle, Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington. We could look up for a week from now and see the Islanders in first place. They've just been playing that well, but it is their first game back. We've talked about that in the past. It's really tough for these players to get back, and they meet the families again and the whole thing. And from a value perspective, you got to think the Islanders have that edge. But why is it so cheap? So I'm with you.
Exactly.
The Islanders would clearly be a play for me if it was probably 140, 145. But here we are. We're seeing one up into 127, and we're seeing 135s and less. That gives me a little bit more of a pause before I play the Islanders. But it's still the side I prefer here.
Yeah, looking around here, minus 122 Pinnacle, Bet Online 125, FanDuel 130, DraftKings 135, Caesars 135. It is interesting here, Brian, and you know when you look at these games, you just kind of you get that feeling when you look at this line. Okay, how many people are going to look at this and say, "Wow, are you kidding me? I'm going to get the Islanders at this price?" And I say it every week. It's no disrespect to those people, but you know, you're out in Vegas. You talk to bookmakers. You talk to all kinds of experts and handicappers for years. You've been doing this longer than me. How many times have you heard someone say, "Are they really giving us this line in any sport?" And it's never that easy.
Yeah,
It
we saw a
never
lot
is.
of that on Thursday with the Buffalo Bills. Everybody said, "Oh, the Buffalo Bills, why are they giving this line? The line's going down." I had lunch with Chris Sanook, and I said, "I love Houston in that game." He says, "Me too." He says, "I grabbed that 6 while I was out there." And sure enough, it goes down to the 5.5 range, and Houston wins the game straight up. You've got to be able, and that's one of the big things with the odds logic line service. You've got to be able to look at what we consider the sharp books, see where they're going on these games, and you find the public books follow. So if you're finding DraftKings or a FanDuel, it's got a higher line, and you see the just sharp books out there giving a lower line. If you like that underdog, grab it at the off book, the FanDuel and the DraftKings, and even if you lose a little bit of line value later, you can decide on what you want to do with it. So that's one of the great things about having those.
I think it really is important too, tracking it, looking at the opening number. And, you know, people say that they don't care about splits when it comes to NHL. And I'm a big believer, you know, stay firm to what you think. If you love a game, you love a game, love a side, you love a side. It's not exactly the same with point spread sports. Like everybody loves, you know, the Bills laying the points. And nobody knew they were going to lose outright, like you said in the NFL. But yeah, I think it is something worth looking at. One thing that I've really loved looking at is, and this is the great thing about doing this show the day before, whether it's recording in the afternoon or at night, is, you know, the flips. So looking at if a team was favorited by the opener and then the next day they're a dog, you have to ask yourself why. Why is that happening? What does a certain book think and all that good stuff? So, yeah, we like odds logic and we look at the WagerTalk live odds as well. And there's all kinds of great information, and you can set it up however you'd like. There's injuries, there's alerts, there's all kinds of great stuff when it comes to that. Brian, let's get to the promo code here. It's a great one, and you've been kicking ass in every single sport right now. And I had a bump in the road for about 2 weeks, and it was not great. And since then, we've really picked it up. I think it's like 28 units the past 7 days. NHL's gone great, and you know when you start hot, then you cool down. People aren't too happy with you, but I'm happy to get back on track now. And this promo code is NHL20. It will save $20 on a week of NHL. Of course, that will be starting tomorrow. And it's a big board. You know, we can't guarantee we'll have a ton of plays in the NHL for you guys, but between Saturday, between Sunday, and leading into the next couple days here, Brian and I will have some NHL plays for you. So WT.buzz/BL for Brian and WT.buzz/AM for me. And this is good for as many uses as people would like. So with this $20 savings, use it for you, Brian, use it for me, and cash some tickets. And you guys can know that Brian and I, we've done our prep, done our research, taken a look at some games. I'm sure there's more work to be done, but we're already looking ahead. So Brian, number one, lifetime NHL at WagerTalk. So you've had very consistent track records with the NHL. Anything else you want to add about kind of what they can expect from you?
Yeah, I would say that I don't really know what Andrew's plays are all the time, but a lot of times we're not on the same games. I'm more of an underdog player than he is. He plays a lot of first periods, and we each do some team totals. But if you get both of us, chances are you're going to get plays on different games. So it's a good if you want to spread out your risk on a daily NHL slate. That's probably a good idea to get both of us.
Seriously is. And I think it's cool to get two unique perspectives. It's one of my favorite things about doing Puck Time, and favorite thing about doing this new show I'm doing is you could line up 10 NHL handicappers in one room and 10 of them can find a different way to approach it. And I really like that about each game. Team totals are my favorite thing. to look at, but I love the situational stuff. And I have been looking at the analytics a lot more as well. This year, I've been looking more and more at the goalie analytics, whether it's a goalie to jump on and goalie to jump off of with some regression and things like that. So it's always good to see. All right, what's the next one here we have to break down? We'll pull up Odds Logic, Seattle and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, of course, will be on the second half of back-to-back, so we have no odds for that one. Brian, feel free for us to just hit a pass if you want. I'm only seeing a couple books with numbers here. Slight phase for Pittsburgh. I did have Seattle against Chicago. They did go down early in that one. But this is one of those games, in fact, that I think that even though it is a second half of back-to-back for Pittsburgh, I don't really like the matchup for Seattle. The reason why I like Seattle against Chicago is because even though they aren't a fast team, they swallow teams up and make it difficult for them. They're an older team that is physical. They make life difficult, but they don't have a ton of scorers. Like, I think they're like in the bottom 5 in shots on goal per game and goals per game, but they make it difficult. I think Pittsburgh has a good mix of the older guys and the younger guys. So I'd kind of lean towards Pittsburgh, but this Friday night game is their first game back after the European road trip. What about the second game, Brian? What do you think? Obviously, it depends on how tonight goes.
You know, it's interesting. I would trust them in the second of the back-to-back more than I would trust them in this first game because they had 4 days off and making the trip to Sweden. They play the game, then have another day off, play another game, and then they got 4 more days off in travel. I just talked about your first game back home. They've been gone for roughly a week and a half, about 10 or 11 days. They play Minnesota Friday night, and then they play Seattle on Saturday. And I'm more interested in them with that game under their belt. So I am looking a little bit at Pittsburgh here on the Saturday card, and the current lines are showing a little bit of value in my perspective on it. It's not a lot of places out there, but you can get what I consider to be a Pittsburgh team really believing in themselves this year, and they're playing very well. I made a lot of money on the Penguins this year, so if we can get a similar line going into tomorrow and when it's more available, and Pittsburgh plays a decent game, I don't whether win or lose, as long as they're competitive in this game, I may be coming back with Pittsburgh on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll take a look to see what they look like in their Friday night game. But, you know, Brian, I'm a fan of some of these veteran teams getting some rest.
Mm-hmm.
What I actually don't like is the younger teams getting rest. And I know that might sound crazy, but the older guys, they've been playing in the league for a while. They know how to get themselves prepared. It's just the body. Get them rest, get the fresh legs going. You don't think Sidney Crosby is going to have himself ready, and Malkin and Carlson and Letang? They're just a bit older. You know, I think that, and I'm someone that's covered junior hockey from a broadcast perspective. These junior players, they're playing 4 or 5 times a week sometimes. You know, they go off to the World Juniors. They're playing busy schedules. It's almost like in their routine, they've never really had to encounter a week off. So an older team dealing with that, and it's a really good point by you. It's like, okay, the NHL says to Pittsburgh, we're going to give you 4 days off. But then when you guys come back, you're playing a back-to-back immediately. So it's like, welcome back to the NHL. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, yeah, I think there's some value on Pittsburgh. Really interesting kind of way of looking at it by you, Brian, about mentioning, hey, maybe there's more value on them game 2 than game 1. Seattle's a team that I just don't have any offensive belief in. If you look at many of their wins, and this is just off the top of my head, a lot of them are going to be unders. When we go to the end of the season and count how many wins they had, I can almost guarantee a lot of their wins are going to be defensive victories. They've had some games where they put up 4 or 5 goals. Don't get me wrong, guys, but this is a lackluster offense, we'll call it in respectful terms, with the Seattle Kraken. Keeping things going with New Jersey and Philadelphia. Of course, no Jack Hughes. That continues to be an issue for the New Jersey Devils. Philadelphia Flyers. This is a team kind of similar, I guess, to what I was just saying about Seattle, where I struggle to believe in their offense, Brian. What do you think about this matchup?
I agree. Philadelphia wins with defense. They've had pretty good goaltending this year. We've got a New Jersey team that out of their last 7 games, 5 of those games went to overtime. They're in their last game of a 5-game road trip. They beat Chicago in overtime. They beat Washington in overtime. Were blown out at Tampa Bay. And then down in Florida, they lose that game 1-0. The offense has really struggled right now for New Jersey. 0 against Florida, 1 against Tampa Bay, 2 in regulation against Washington, 3 in regulation against Chicago, 2 in regulation against the Islanders, and 2 against the Pirates, the Penguins. So you've got a team struggling offensively going into Philadelphia. And as you mentioned, this is a team that's got to win with their defense. They're coming off that 2-1 loss in the second of a back-to-back against Tampa Bay. I had Tampa Bay in that game, or excuse me, I'm looking at the Edmonton. Sorry about that. They're coming off of that 3-2 win over St. Louis. I had them in that game, and it took them a while to start taking control of that game. But they've also played. You take a look at their last 4 games. 4 out of 5 of their last games have gone to overtime. But they did have 4 days off. They had back-to-back last week on Friday and Saturday, St. Louis and Dallas on the road. Then they had 4 full days before coming back home. So that first game back home off of that, it was a short trip, and it was for those 4 days off. They come back and beat St. Louis. Now they're in their second of back-to-back at home, and then they got to go back on the road again. Jersey's a team I like, but right now they're not playing very well. And in a low-scoring game right now, I would prefer Philadelphia. And the current lines we're getting here shows them with a little bit of an advantage here. It's basically a pick 'em when it opened up. Gotten a little bit of money on Jersey. If I can get Philadelphia and plus money here, that may be the way I take a look at this one.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, when you look at this this matchup, and we're getting a random update here in the college department on the odds logic page. When you look at this matchup here, this New Jersey team, since they lost Jack Hughes, they had 1 game against the Capitals where they really stepped up to the plate. And then since then, it just hasn't been good offensively. So you know how you kind of across all sports, Brian, you get that 1 game where the team rallies around when that one player gets injured, and then the next game after that, that's when you really notice it. I feel it's kind of like a backup QB coming into play, and everyone's like, "We got to fade this guy. We got to fade this guy." And then it's the second start the backup quarterback has where you maybe fade him and not the first time around. So I look towards the Philly side here. What do you think about Philly team total or even the thing is the Devils, they've had 1 goal shutout against and I've been loving these overs first period full game when a team is off a game where they were shut out. So they pretty much got shut out in let's be honest, back-to-back games. They just got that backdoor goal against the Lightning. So there's going to be some type of urgency. I kind of lean towards the over, but if it's going to be an over, I think we'll take the team that isn't missing their best player. It's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, the only problem with Philadelphia is, do you trust their offense enough to go for the over? But that's why the line is sitting where it's at. So, it's different ways to look at the games. And we've known when we've been doing games all of our lives, and if everybody's on the same side in a game, that's a loser. So it's nice that sometimes we all disagree. And, even with the 3 of us, when I'm guesting on the show with all 3 of us, we rarely have a game which we all like. And that's good. As I say, if everybody agrees, something may be up there and we must be missing something.
For sure. We always used to joke that Joe Ranieri or Dan would be back there just ready to hit the button on the other team there. And, for Puck Time, a lot of people and a lot of you guys, of course, watching this video are fans of Puck Time as well. And people liked it, Brian, when we were talking about all the same games. But in the off season, and this goes back to the first pitch show on baseball when Dan and then before Drew Martin were hosting it, I just kind of liked the idea that each guest got to come on with their own games. I like the banter and back and forth. I personally found, though, that with 3 people, if it was a Thursday slate with 10 plus games and people were watching our show for 40 minutes on Puck Time and you had 3 people talking about 3 games, it felt like kind of a wasted opportunity with so many games out there. So I love it when we're able to say, "Hey, Brian, stick around. We're going to talk with you about this game as well." But it's like it became a little bit tough. If it was like, "Yep, I like Florida. I like Florida. I like Florida." And then they just watched 3 different people give a breakdown on the exact same game. So that was always a bit different. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, hit the like button. We're going to try and get up to 150 likes on this video. I hate being that guy, Bryan, to ask for likes, but that's just part of the game on YouTube. So, guys, subscribe to us on WagerTalk TV, and you can find both Bryan and I, of course, at wagertalk.com. But if you're enjoying these videos, I'm giving these out every single Friday night, and most of the time we will be live on the YouTube channel at 10 p.m. Eastern. All right, Bryan, when it comes to the Stanley Cup, we're getting a rematch from the last 2 years, Edmonton and Florida. Would you have believed me if I would have told you that, well, right now, both these teams are not even in a playoff spot where we stand right now? Florida's the home team. I know a lot of people have had success going against this Oilers team as of late. What do you think here? Minus 135 ballpark average price. Who do you want?
Yeah, I've been fanning the Oilers. I've been talking about this brutal schedule they've had. Last week they had 4 games. This week they've got 4 games. This is their 7th game of a 7-game road trip. And if you take a look at, I just talked in some of the other games about the overtime games they played so far this month. They played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overtime games. They've been in every single game, basically, except for when they played Buffalo, and Buffalo shocked them 5-1. And then Washington pulled away late in that game. They won.
Two empty net goals. Two empty net goals in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty tight game. So it's their 3rd game in 4 nights, all on the road. 7th game on the road. They're getting 2 days off. They go back home and play Dallas. Then they got 3 days off before they got to go on the road and play Seattle. I think when they get back to Dallas in that first game, we're going to have plenty of value on Dallas because it's the first game back off a bad road trip. And they played, anytime you've got to go down to Florida and play Tampa Bay in Florida within 3 days, those are some physical teams. If you ever watch Tampa Bay in Florida, they get in fights all the time. I'm just checking the schedule with my wife. We're thinking about going down to Sunrises or Surprise?
Sunrise, yep.
Yeah,
Sunrise,
Surprise
Florida.
is in Arizona spring training. I'm thinking about going to that because they've been duking it out in the preseason and the regular season. Of course, like my wife likes fighting, as long as it's not against me.
Those are always fun. Yeah, exactly. Just keep you out of the way, eh?
I'm a fan of that. But, Florida's a team. I understand why Florida hasn't played as well. They've had injuries to key players. Tkachuk is such a great player and such an emotional leader for them. They're talking about getting him possibly back for Thanksgiving, and that would be a big bonus for them. But right now, they're in the middle of their last game of a 5-game homestand. They're sitting at 3-1. The only loss was to Tampa Bay. They don't play again until on Monday at Nashville. Nashville hasn't been very good. They play Philadelphia at home and then Calgary. So they should be able to gain some victories here, but they've got to be able to beat the Oilers. Yes, I know, playoff revenge, and that's something you always take a look at, but it didn't work out earlier. So I prefer the home team in this one. I think it's a really great spot for Florida here. And the line's pretty fair, if you ask me, for a team in their 7th straight road game.
It is pretty fair. And look, we've got the injuries. Of course, you mentioned Tkachuk and Barkov is so huge, not just offensively but defensively for the Florida Panthers. Call it a lazy handicap here, Bryan, but give me the over in a game in which the Oilers are coming off an under. That's what I like here. Are you kidding me? This team's coming off a 2-1 game. They limited a team to 2 goals. I'm going to look outside. There might be, the earth falling right now, and just I think the world might be ending because, look, this is an Oilers defense I don't trust, and I feel bad for Stuart Skinner because there's this graphic that keeps going around social media right now, and it's him pretty much saying he wants to be an Olympian for Team Canada, and he said this last year, of course, and of course, everybody's saying, yeah, and and I want to win the lottery, or I want to be a head coach, or I want to be a professional athlete, and just because you want something doesn't mean it's going to happen.
That's right.
So I feel bad for him, but when it comes down to it, the defense hasn't been good. Stuart Skinner hasn't been good. I lean towards the over. I might be doing a little sprinkle on the Florida team total over. They're coming off a win, but kind of a weird win. I mean, how often do you see wins like that anymore? 1-goal wins? I don't know. So both teams coming off low-scoring games. One is 2-1, and one game was 1-0. That's kind of strange, Brian, for what we usually see this year in the NHL.
Well, Florida at home, they like to play very physical and play from the defense. It's sort of like what Vegas tries to do with their younger goalies is you play the better defense and let the breakaways be the way you score turnovers. And that's the way Florida plays at home, which is why when Florida played Vegas, it was a low scoring game both times they played. And you see teams that play very similar in that regard. So it's tough for me to play an over on Florida when they're playing at home, but I'll root for you.
I appreciate it. It sounds funny, and it's it's a tough way to look at a game handicapping that way, but I completely mean it when I say this. I don't see two defensive efforts out of the Oilers happening in a row. I just don't, and I don't think they have it in them. Like if you score 4 goals in a game and you still don't win, that's a problem. And I know the Capitals scored some empty net goals, but they scored 4 goals against the Blue Jackets and they lost 5-4. You know, they scored a handful of goals against the Stars. They lost. Like there's some, we can go down the list about how many games they've scored 3 or 4 goals and still lost. And the other team hit the puck line. Like if you're a puck line bet, and this is why I always tell people, if you're going to bet on the Oilers or you're going to bet against the Oilers, you take the team totals. A big team total supporter. And especially if you want to bet on the Oilers, you know, yeah, their last win, Brian, we can tip our cap to them, give them a little baseball tip. One of their last wins, they were able to, they put up 2 goals on the Flyers and they won that one 2-1. You know, how often are we going to see a 2-1 win for the Edmonton Oilers? Just not really going to be something that we see very often here. All right, keeping things going. Too much time spent on that pitiful Oilers team. Toronto and Montreal. I'm going to try and keep my bias hat off. I'll let you do most of the talking here. This number is very, very interesting to me here with this one. But Montreal looks horrible lately, but more importantly, their goaltending looks horrible lately. Another example of 2 teams with playoff expectations currently not in the playoffs. Don't look now, but at some sports books, Brian, there is a plus next to the Maple Leafs name for a chance to make the playoffs, which is kind of crazy. What do you think?
And it should be. They just have not played well. I will say the offense has been better than what I thought it was going to be. It's the defense that hasn't worked out well. And in this game, now 2 teams that obviously know each other very well, and you know Montreal better than anybody. I'm kind of looking at the over. There's still 5.5s out there. It's 5.5 to 6, depending on where you're looking to play. And the Canadians right now just have not played well at all. Just taking a look at their last few games against Washington, they give up 8 goals. Columbus give up 4. Boston, a team that doesn't score a lot, they give up 3 in that one. Give up 7 to Dallas, 7-0 shutout. Give up 5 to the Kings. They're not a team that scores a lot. So right now, this may be, Washington's got a pretty good offense, but this may be the best offense that they have played in a while. And no, they're not the same offense they've been in the past. Toronto's not the same team as they were. I still think both of these teams could get to 7 goals, 6-6, and let the winner take it a 7-3 game going late. I'm not much of a totals guy, but that's the way I'm looking at this one. I think it'll be a high scoring game.
Yeah, and even with the injuries that the Maple Leafs are dealing with, and they've got a ton of them that they're dealing with, even with those injuries, there's still been some secondary guys stepping up. But I'm looking forward to watching this, Brian. I've got a couple friends of mine that are all Leaf fans, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of people in my friend group that are Habs fans, so I'm kind of alone on an island. So it's always tough, but we're getting together to watch the game, and it's kind of funny because we're both nervous going into the game. Like typically, it's one of us is feeling better than the other. And most of the time it's been the Leaf fans that are feeling better because they've been obviously a good team for years. But yeah, none of us are feeling good. It's like the only good thing about this matchup is that one of us will get a win from our team. Somebody has to win. But I'll tell you, it brings me pain hearing you bring up those scores. Part of me died when I heard that, you see this? I got about 5 of these on my desk. Tim Hortons Coffee's got to get a sponsorship here because I'm not sleeping. This team is driving me to stay up all night long. And the funny thing is I watch the Habs lose and then I watch podcasts about why they're losing. I'm watching Habs post-game shows. So I'm torturing myself watching the game. And then I'm torturing myself watching the post-game shows. Brian, I'm right there with you. You talked earlier about me betting the first period plays. I haven't bet as many as I did before in the past, but over 1.5 goals. I bet this in the first game of the year. This is the last time these teams have played, was the first game of the season. Over 1.5 did cash in that game. The full game ended up going over as well, I believe. I'm going to take that in this one, over 1.5 goals. Hopefully the Habs don't get scored on in their first shot of the game again, like they have in like 3 of the last 4 games. But I think both teams get on the board. I think both teams can contribute. You need 1 goal from each team. Obviously, Brian, we just need 2 goals. So that's what I'll take in this one. Once again, guys, this promo, see at the bottom of your screen there, the code is NHL20. It's going to be the next 7 days. You're going to take $20 off, NHL20. Head over to Brian's page. Brian does great work, great analysis. You're going to get all of his plays, NHL, total, sides, whatever it might be, wt.buzz/BL. And for myself, wt.buzz/AM. And as I said before, you can use the code on both of us. And great point by Brian. We're not trying to be marketers here, but the fact is we probably won't be on a lot of the same games. And also, I've gotten better with this over the years, and I know Brian's not throwing out 25 plays a night. With our volume levels, the chances are probably even better because we're only giving out a handful of plays. Even on a big Thursday or Saturday slate, I'm not giving out any more than usually 4 plays. It has to be a really good play that or package and day that I love to give out more than that. So once again, guys, it's a great deal if you're interested. I know some of you guys only want the short-term stuff. So NHL20 is the promo code. Save $20 on NHL. All right, Brian, keeping the train on the tracks here. Enough talking about my miserable Habs. Let's get some goals, though. At least if I'm going to have a few cold beverages and watch a game on a Saturday, give me some goals. Give me an exciting game. Ottawa, San Jose. Ottawa had like 3 or 4 days off. Then they went into Anaheim, caught Anaheim on a second half of back-to-back. What a great situational spot that was for Ottawa. It was one of those spots, Brian. I'm still upset about it. I had the team total. They land on 3 and don't get 4 for me. That was tough. What do you think here? Minus 150, 160. Is this the time where we start seeing some regression for San Jose, or is there value here on them?
Well, until I see it, I'm going to continue to go wherever the value is. And I think there's value on San Jose here. Take a look at Ottawa. They're being priced like they're one of the best teams in hockey. But they played 2 more games at home than they have on the road, and their net goal differential is 0. They're, I believe, 5-2-3, so that they're 5-5 their last 10 games. They're just coming off of 4 games at home. Now, they did beat some pretty good teams. They beat the Kings 1-0. Boston's playing very well. That's another surprise team. They beat them. They lose to Dallas in overtime, and they beat the Mammoth. And we'll get to the Mammoth in a little while. But the Mammoth are a team on a real bad streak right now. And you could just watch them. They have no confidence whatsoever. But they did have those 4 days off before they played Anaheim. I'm still a believer in Anaheim, but they get that victory 3-2. And now that was the first of, 2, 5, 6 straight on the road. They've got to play after San Jose. They got to play in LA, got to play in Vegas. They got to play in Dallas. They do get St. Louis. So St. Louis and San Jose are the 2 games that are probably the weakest on the schedule. But if you take the San Jose team, they've been very competitive, and especially defensively. You take a look at their games as of late. They did lose to the Kings in a shootout on Thursday, but they gave up 3 goals in regulation. Gave up 2 goals in regulation to the Mammoth, 4 to Seattle, 2 to Calgary, 1 to Minnesota, 1 to Florida, 1 to Winnipeg, 1 to Seattle. So their team, 3 to Detroit, but only 2 in regulation. They're playing really good defense.
Yep.
And anytime you've got a team that's playing the kind of defense that San Jose is, and they're playing at home, I'm interested in that team here. So if I'm going to play with this one, I'm going to play the underdog in San Jose. It's a young team. Young teams play better at home than they do on the road. And this Ottawa team is being priced as if they're in the upper third, I would say, of the NHL. And right now, they just haven't shown it to me.
I get it. This San Jose has improved. They're the real deal. I think we've seen a real big shift, especially with a team like the Ducks, who are not just improved. They're like one of the top dogs right now in the West. But the Blackhawks, this San Jose Sharks team, a lot of teams taking that huge step forward. And Brian, I don't want to spark any debate here, but this is why I love the NHL. Look, I grew up actually playing basketball. A lot of people don't know that, but I love hockey. I live and breathe it. But this is why I cover the hockey world more. And the reason being is the way the draft works and the way the loyalty works and the way the contracts work is because I'm starting to think that the NBA is similar to like MLB, except for there is sort of a salary. I mean, the Dodgers keep winning. The big teams keep winning. When's the next time do you ever think that the Charlotte Hornets are going to be a top 5 seed in the conference? When's the next time the Sacramento Kings are going to make the Western Conference final? Maybe they're a bad team to use, but you get my point. The Blackhawks, they draft Bedard. They're doing well, right? The Sharks, they draft Celebrini. They're doing better. That's how the draft works in the NHL. And the crazy thing is, there's more players on the roster, and yet their draft helps them even more. So I love to see these teams. As you can tell, I'm passionate about the subject. These teams starting to do better. There's one team that's not improving, though. The Buffalo Sabres. They're not getting any better. They're not getting any better. But yeah, it's really good to see. So I'm with you. I watched the Sharks game a couple days ago, and I love the way they play. But I'll tell you what, I love looking at, as much as I was on that Senators team total, I love the spot. I do prefer to look towards overs the more a road trip goes on. The Senators had a ton of chances in that game. Not going to lie. Maybe I'm biased because I had the pick, but in that game they had against the Ducks, they ran into a hot goalie, and both goalies for the Ducks are pretty good. I do lean towards the over in this one. If the books think the Sens are so good, as you alluded to, that they have to be good enough to put some goals on the board, because the Sharks are going to score too. The Sharks aren't going to fold. And I get what you were saying about the Sharks defensively, but I think this is going to be a game where it's first to 4, first to 5 wins. I do. Allmark's off a good start, and I don't necessarily trust this defense and goaltending for the Senators. So I kind of lean towards an exciting game. We'll see. 4-3 for the last game there for the Sharks. They've proven that they can do both things, but kind of lean towards an exciting game. We'll see what ends up happening. Speaking of exciting games, can we get an exciting game out of the Utah Hockey Club? I mean, Utah Mammoth. They're looking better when they were the hockey club. When they didn't have a name, Brian, they were more consistent of a roster here. Is this a spot to be contrarian, or is this a spot to fade a bad team?
Well, I watch every Golden Knights game. If I'm not there, I watch them on TV. So that's where I live, Las Vegas. So that's a team that we follow more than any other. But I followed this Utah team since their inception, and when they were Phoenix, I used to go to Phoenix and watch them play. They just have not played well as of late. And if you take a look at this line right in here, they expect to bounce back. But the Rangers are a team that coming into the season I thought were pretty good. And they come into this matchup. They lost at home to Detroit 2-1. They lose to Vegas 3-2, and Vegas really did play a pretty good game there. And then they go to Colorado. Well, going to Vegas and going to Colorado are going to be places you're going to have a tough time coming out of there. If you get one win, you've been pretty lucky. Now they're going into Utah before they head home for one game against St. Louis. I would expect the Rangers to perform really well here. This Utah team, you could tell the air was taken out of them yesterday. It was when it got to be 2-0. Even the announcers talked about how it looked like they were just giving up. They just they weren't able to they got a lot of young legs on this team, and they weren't able to get up and down the ice like they were before. And if you take a look at them, this is their 4th game in 6 days. They had to go in fact, they go three overtime games before that game against Vegas. So, they played San Jose and they played Anaheim. Both teams playing pretty good hockey right now, and they lose both of those. They lose to Vegas, a team that they've been playing all right. But now they're playing the Rangers, and the Rangers are going into this game needing this victory. I prefer the Rangers here, and at least at this current point, we can get them as an underdog. So that's the way I'm going to take a look at this one. Utah, I'm going to continue to fade as they're just not playing good hockey right now.
I don't blame you one bit. I do not blame you one bit. You got to see the ball go through the basket. You got to see the puck go through the net. You got to see the W on the score sheet. Sometimes you wait till a team looks good, then you can jump back on them. Mm-hmm. I think it would take some guts to jump on them here. Ian Cole, he's one of the number one defensemen for the Utah Mammoth. He had some powerful quotes. I'm not a huge quotes handicapper. When I'm scrolling on my feed, when I'm reading articles, sometimes there's stuff that catches me off guard a little bit. And I'm like, this is worth looking at here. Look, I'd be paraphrasing if I tried to bring it up here, Brian, but he was calling out the team. All right. And he had a lot of things to say about how they looked disorganized. They were non-committed. When I see quotes like this, I like to look towards an under. And I know that Utah has performed better offensively at home in the past, but you talked about it. This Rangers team coming off some games against some tough opponents, right? And I think that maybe for them as well, going into this game, defense will be the answer as well. So, you play the Avalanche, you play the Knights, and I was lucky enough to fade that spot there and take the Knights. But now this is going to be a spot where they're going to say, all right, we got to get this win. I don't care. Utah's desperate. We got to get this win. So I think defense will be on the minds of both those teams. So hopefully you get an under, but can be kind of risky taking an under with Utah right now as well, with how many chances they give up. So we'll see what happens.
The thing with a player coming out and talking about that, you can give the effort defensively. A lot of times offensively, you're giving a great effort. You're just not getting good shots. So yeah, I would agree. I would think the under would probably be the way that if I was going to play the total in this one, I'd join you on that.
And it's important to see, will they listen to him? How important is this player? I mean, do you respect this guy? Are you going to give it your all? People say keep it within the locker room, but I think sometimes players will even do that just to get the crowd, just to get the team going. Sometimes they'll do that to the media, and then they're going to go and look at their teammates and say, just so you guys all know, I just said that you guys are playing like shit on defense, just to get the team pumped up a little bit. All right, 2 more games here. Vegas, Anaheim, Dallas, Calgary. Kind of closing in on our time slot here, Brian. I hope you guys are all enjoying the video, though. Hit the like button. Like I said, 150 likes is the benchmark. That's not the minimum, guys. So if you want to give us more, we'll take it. We'll take the more. But that is what we were trying to go for, 150 likes here. Vegas, Anaheim, Dallas, Calgary. Do you have any thoughts on either of those games?
Yeah, it's the revenge game for Vegas. They'd originally, for the entire career, they've beaten Anaheim pretty well. They lost in overtime at home to Anaheim earlier this month. In fact, it'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow on Saturday. They're coming off that game against Utah where they dominated. That was probably their best all-around game they played in the last 3 or 4 weeks. They played pretty well against Rangers, a team that I have a lot of respect for. So I would expect them to have a pretty good game here against Anaheim. But Anaheim seems to match up pretty well with the speed that they have on this team. And they are off that loss to Calgary. They had just beaten Boston in Utah before that. It's a third game in 4 days against when they play Vegas. Slight lean to Vegas here. The current lines of what we're looking at is showing pretty much what I expected. So, no, I don't think I was going to have enough. Unless I get some line movement, I probably won't have enough there for a play.
I always love the revenge. Especially when it's 2 teams like this. We'll see if it ends up being enough here. Anaheim off that loss against the Sens. When a team starts to fall, they start to fall heavy. But this Anaheim team has always gotten back up once they've gotten hit. So we'll see what ends up happening. This was probably going to be a sit back and watch game for me. But I'll tell you what, Brian, I know what's going to happen. If we see a good effort out of Vegas, I'm going to be pissed I don't play on them. And if I play Vegas and Anaheim wins, I'm going to say, I knew Anaheim was a good team. I shouldn't have done it. Okay, I don't really have much on this last one, Dallas and Calgary here. Calgary, it's such a weird team that, they had that great win over Buffalo, putting up a 6-piece, but they're back at home. They've been disappointing their fans too much. I've seen some corrections with the totals. End of the day, I think that Calgary would want to play a lower scoring game, so I kind of lean towards the under. Dallas is most certainly capable of that as well, but they're so offensively talented. Do you see this as a matchup where Dallas could take Calgary lightly?
Yeah, they could, because they've run off a pretty good string of wins. The only losses were a home game against Anaheim. They scored 5 goals in that game, still lost. And then they lose to the Islanders, a team, as I was just saying, how well they've been playing. They get the next 2 days off of this after this one, but they're all on the road, all 4 of these games. Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Seattle. The Edmonton game is the one I circled earlier with Edmonton first game back. But Calgary is just not a team I trust right now. I just haven't seen enough out of them. They did get the victory, as you mentioned, against Buffalo. They look pretty good there. But Buffalo is a team. If you were to give me one team in the NHL and say to bet on them when they're a favorite, I want no part of Buffalo. Buffalo is a team that whatever you expect from them to play well, they never seem to play well. And that tells me that they've got some coaching issues there. So I prefer Dallas here, but I don't like the line. It's a little bit too much more than what I want to play here.
I think that, Calgary's going to try and make this as boring of a game they possibly can for as long as they can. But the second that Dallas starts scoring, I think Calgary's going to have to loosen things up. We'll see. If maybe I'll look towards like a first period under 1.5 before the game opens up, but we'll see. This is a game I got to spend more time looking at. All right, Brian, we have that great promo code NHL20. I love chatting with you, man. It's cool when we do shows together. I mean, obviously when it's me, you, Buster, Prez, Carm, maybe not Prez always, but no, we love Prez. But it's cool just doing the shows, just me and you, and breaking things down. And, some games will have different perspectives on. Some games we're exactly on the same side. But just want to give you a second to promote anything you have going on. And you've been hot across multiple sports.
Yeah, I have, I believe, 27-11 run overall. The last, I know it's a hockey show, but it's Saturday, college football. Number one, the last 7 weeks in college football. It's been great. We're all in the course of November. I was just told today I'm number one in net profit in all sports in the month of November. So I've already got 6 plays up in college football for Saturday. And they've got that great special, the Weekend Warrior package, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I'm not an NFL expert. I play numbers, but I am on an 8-2 run in the NFL also. So it's a pretty good deal. You get all of our football Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I may actually be involved in this Monday night game. I don't force them just because they're on Monday Night Football. So, yeah, everything's going great. And welcome anybody to join us. And we'll try to continue on what we've done the last 2 months.
Well, I hope people will, Brian. I hope people will join you because you know what? It's not just one sport. It's not just 2 sports. It's not just 3 sports. You're doing a good job and you're humble. And I always respect that about you because, this industry is full of a lot of people that love to brag. And you get the job done without bragging. So
we have somebody on that is on this show every once in a while, the hockey show, that likes to brag a little bit, I believe.
Hey, unfortunately, the industry is full of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we have to point it out because it is a jam-packed website. There's a lot of people at the website, and we want people to know when we're doing well. And look, I'm just going to mention this one deal I have going right now that the office just put up for me. Most of you guys know me for NHL, but I put together a prop package because that's most of what I'm betting when it comes to NFL. So this is a great deal, $69 for 30 days of all my props, NHL and NFL. Just so you guys know, a 5% NFL prop is still $35. So this whole package for 30 days of all my prop, that's $69 right here. 38 unit run with NFL props. And in the NHL, I'm on 9.2% ROI. All of my plays are plus money mostly when it comes to the props. That's what I've decided to do, Brian. I know you're a fan of plus money as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I like a guy over 2.5 shots on goal, but it's like minus 140, I'll take the stab at him going over 3.5 because I want that plus 130 or 40 price tag. The other night, I had 2 guys, Ovechkin over 4.5 and Kadri over 3.5. And I went 1-1, but the average price was plus 135. And I know people don't love that. They don't want to hear. They want you to go 7-0, but long term, I'll take those little tiny units all weekend, all day long. So, Brian, thank you again very much for joining me here. This has been the Pre-Scout. This is our last show of the week, Friday night. And make sure you hit the like button because we're trying to grow this channel and trying to grow this video. We'll see you guys next time right here on WagerTalk TV.